And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. That is the picture, an artist rendering of Old Fort Schuyler. And Joe Bottini, our guest, brought it along. Joe is the official Oneida County historian. And that's from what, Joe, about 1760?
That says 1760 on there, but 1758 is when the fort was constructed. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing, Frank, Joe, if you could show that just 1 second more.
Yeah.
That is what the fort looked like. You'll see some artist renderings, if you read a lot of local history, that are not correct. This is the correct configuration mm-hmm. of the fort, mm-hmm. Based on drawings that we received from the Albany Museum. So they're accurate.
It was not a fort like Fort Stanwix.
It was not a garrison that had troops and fought battles. No, mm-hmm. It was a supply fort, and it was a guard fort. It guarded the ford in the Mohawk River, which were needed by the troops. Mm-hmm. That was needed by the troops and the material.
And in fact, speaking of that, if we get a look at that, there is the location of the fort. And you can see down toward the bottom, Main Street, today's Main Street. And then in the upper corner, you can see the Freight House, which still stands. That's the REA wing of Union Station. And so all you need to do if you want to know, I've had many people over the years ask me where Old Fort Schuyler was. Well, all you need to do is go down to Union Station and go to the end of what is today the REA Freight House, and there it be.
No, they must know that it's under construction.
The REA wing,
it's being
yeah.
rehabbed,
mm-hmm.
and Mr. Pacente, the county executive, that's his project. It's going to be in conjunction with the farmers market, and the eastern portion, the eastern 1/4 of that building was so deteriorated that it had to come down, and they're going to, that's where we hope to put the park.
In fact, you brought a picture, I think that shows that pretty well. There's the, that's where Joe Bottini and the county executive want to put that. Right where those trees are, and then in the background you can see the REA wing, and that little island there.
Little traffic island.
Little traffic island in the parking lot down there is where you want to put what, Joe?
Well, we have the two monuments that were in the old park. I think you have a photograph there, and a flagpole naturally, and the lighting is already there. Mm-hmm. It would be a monument park as opposed to a walk-in park, mm-hmm. Just to mark the spot where Utica began. It was the incubator of Utica, and it would enhance the farmers market as an entranceway to the farmers market.
The problem is that, and it's a problem that you've tried to articulate many times over the years, is that these monuments are wrong. Here's a monument. It's cut in stone, and it says this is the site of Old Fort Schuyler.
It's a huge monument at that. It's 4 feet high, 3 feet wide, and 2 feet thick.
Yep.
And it's granite. And here they have on this site Old Fort Schuyler, and it's located in Bagg Commemorative Park, which is 1,500 feet off. And people would say, well, that's close, but this is not horseshoes. This is history.
Right. And and that was because it got moved there, Joe, because it was on the right spot at one time.
Well, it was closer. It was still a little bit off, but it was closer. And when Route 5S, the new Route 5S was put through, I think it was 1967, 68, late 60s, it went right through the park, where they had that park. And so they didn't know what to do with the monuments. And of course, the sense of history is not with us so often, especially with our government folks. And they didn't know what to do with the monuments and the cannon that were there. And they said, oh, put them down at Bagg Commemorative Park. And that's where they sat for over 60 years. And the monuments are still there, although the cannons are gone. And that's from 1967 till now. And all these years, anyone who visited that park got the wrong information, historically speaking. And I've battled with not only the present mayor, but the previous 2 mayors. And Mr. Pacente's on board. I'll give him credit. He gets it. He's one of the few people that gets it. Mm-hmm. Now, to get it done is another thing. He promised me he was going to get it done. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, I said, Tony, I'm not going to be around much longer. I'm in my 80s, so let's get it going. And he said, we'll get it done, we'll get it done. So hopefully before I go.
And once that's done, what you want to do then is bring those stone monuments from Bagg Commemorative Park, bring them back there, put it in a flagpole, and
with a nice marker indicating what was there. I've got it all written, ready to go. So I'm ready.
The other thing that you're passionate about many things, but one of the other things you're passionate about is Garrett Smith. And for those who don't know who Garrett Smith was, back in the day, he was big time.
Garrett Smith was born in Utica in 1797, the son of Peter Smith, a very wealthy Utican. And Garrett Smith in the mid-1800s was the most influential man in the country. And he was from Utica, New York. And Garrett was a wealthy man. He acquired his money the old-fashioned way. He inherited from his father, Peter, who was a fur trader and a land speculator. And Garrett Smith felt very strongly about the term noblesse oblige. The nobility had the obligation to use their money wisely, and he did.
And we got a picture of Garrett Smith right
That's
there.
in his older years, yeah.
Where did he live?
He was born just east of Mohawk Street on Broad. Fine little home there. That was the residential section at that time. And then he moved to Peterborough. They had land there. And that's where the national headquarters is for the Underground Railroad in Peterborough. They have many functions there. Once a year they have a big summer function where they celebrate that. That could have been in Utica, and it should have been in Utica.
Utica was a stop on the Underground Railroad.
Yes. One of the photos that you have there is of the corner of Charlotte. It would be the southwest corner of Charlotte and Bleecker Street. And that was...
That's where the Metro station is.
Correct. Now that's right across the street from the Central Station.
Yeah.
At the time, there was a church there. It was the Second Presbyterian Church. And in 1835, they scheduled a meeting there, an anti-slavery meeting, abolition meeting. And
that's a vacant lot today, right?
Today it's a vacant lot. Yeah, the arrow points right to it. They didn't want the abolition meeting there because they thought it might bring bad publicity for Utica, because there were some folks even in the north who were not abolitionists. And so there was a riot there, and Garrett Smith happened to be in attendance, and he suggested they all come to his home in Peterborough. And imagine, 30 miles. They didn't have automobiles. 30 miles, they got in their buggies, and they ended up at Peterborough, and that's why that's the center of Underground Railroad. Then he got really interested and became a big abolitionist. Spent a lot of his money. He sponsored John Brown, raided Harper's Ferry. He sponsored many of the abolitionists and their work. And he took land up north that he had and developed it into homesteads for some of the freed slaves, and gave John Brown an estate there. He has estates in North Elba, New York. He really lived his belief that money was to be used properly by those who have it. Interesting, he got interested in the women's rights movement. He's big in that. People don't realize that. They think of him only as an abolitionist mover, but he was a temperance. He was a temperance movement first. The first temperance hotel in the country was in Peterborough. Was his hotel, and then he got into the abolition after attending this meeting. And then he got into the women's rights movement because he was Elizabeth Cady Stanton's cousin. His mother and Elizabeth's mother were sisters, and that's where he got involved in that. He did a lot with the women's rights movement.
In fact, there's a building in Utica that still stands that a plaque used to be on, and when we come back from this break, we'll show you a picture of that Joe Bottini brought along with him. Short break, right back.
Wow, that's fast.